It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
Well, the Twins make it a third consecutive day, firing up the hot stove. We got 2 players signed in the last 48 hours. They go, what,
Wow.
2.5, 3 months, not adding a single player from the free agent pool in the last 2 days. We got Danny Coulombe, we got Harrison Bader. What are the Twins going to do today, and what emergency podcast do I have to do to conflict with the NBA trade deadline on the SKOR North Twins Show?
Yeah, I love it. But I love baseball, like NFL Super Bowl week. But then the NBA comes elbowing in saying, we're not dead yet. Look at these blockbuster trades. Jimmy Butler, Warriors over here. And the Twins are like, ha, not so fast, my friends. Harrison Bader. I feel like it's been a 4-year quest for the Twins to finally track down Harrison Bader as their, like, outfielder 3.5. You know, like, so we got Buxton, but you're still probably going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Do we know how much is that contract? 1 year what? Do we know?
Yeah, guarantee of 6.25 with incentives built in.
Okay.
And a mutual option for 2026, Phil.
The mutual options are great because it's like, why don't you make a decision? No, why don't you make a decision? Do you want to be back? I don't know. Do you want me back? I want to be back. Do you want me back? I don't know. Let's close our eyes and on 3 we can announce whether we want to be back together.
So the star players, for the most part, and I guess it's a good thing, all got signed, right? But everyone else who was like told by Scott Boras, hey, just hold your horses, man. I'm going to get you as much as possible. Every one of them now is basically crawling back to a team. I mean, Alex Bregman, who is being tied to the Cubs now, still has not signed. Pete Alonso, where is he going to go? Is he going to go to Toronto, the Angels, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, Mets, I'll take it. I mean, it is funny how the owners, for the most part, have just bled these second-tier guys who are good just to basically come back on bended knee before spring training saying, okay, I'll take what you give me.
And the Pete Alonso thing, all right, just since we're all down this thread here for a second, like what I don't understand, and this is part of baseball doesn't have any structure. There's no, I mean, the NBA is kind of easy, you know. In fact, it's almost like too centric to the players because all these dudes have no trade clauses or whatever. But in baseball, there's no starting point for a negotiation. Pete Alonso is one of the great power hitters of the last 10 years in baseball. If he's healthy, he is a guaranteed like 35 plus home runs for your team. And he's going to give you at least like 2.5, 3, 4 wins above replacement. Every team could use a Pete Alonso to just park baseballs in the seats and be a threat and draw some walks and whatever. But because there's no starting point, like his agency can say, yeah, he's Pete. He's Polar Pete. He deserves an 8-year contract for $50 million a year. And the team's like, well, that's dumb.
He'll take his shirt off. What's that worth?
He'll take his shirt off. He'll be the MVP of your clubhouse celebration if you win a division. So it's like, the fact that dudes like that in their prime, like prime peak power hitters, are just sitting out on the market for 4 months is ridiculous. But Harrison Bader finally in a Twins uniform. Let's go.
Harrison Bader, come on down. Danny Coulombe, come on down. So the Twins have now added 2 things that they definitely needed to add to their team. There's been some projections from Fangraphs and other analytics that suggest the Twins are likely still to be the favorites to win the Central. So the Twins have supplemented some of those needs with a much-needed lefty arm in Danny Coulombe, who was very solid last year. They get Harrison Bader, who's basically bucks and insurance. And I know people are comparing it to Michael A. Taylor. And yes, Bader is a good fielder. Harrison Bader does not strike out at nearly the clip that Taylor does. Now, he doesn't have a lot of power, not a lot of pop in that bat, but still a serviceable hitter that you can plug and play against lefties. So this means, what else is next for the Twins? Obviously, first base is something I think they still need to probably address. I think they'll get a look in spring training with the Edward Julians and the Jose Miranda, and I'm going to throw out another internal name at you guys here in a second. But also, does this mean is a trade in the works? You know, Chris Paddock is making about $6 million, which is what Harrison Bader just signed for. Is there a Chris Paddock trade in the works? Willie Castro in his last year of ARB is in the same figure. Christian Vazquez is making $10 million. No team's just going to take on that $10 million. Even if the Twins trade him, they're probably going to have to eat some money. So I wonder what the next move is. Is it actually an external move of moving out some of this bloated money? Because now all of a sudden the Twins basically just added $9 million of their payroll between Coulombe and Harrison Bader. So if you were strapped for cash and you couldn't add anyone, well, now all of a sudden you have $9 million you were able to play with. Does that mean some of that money is going out internally? I'm kind of curious to see where that goes next.
Maybe the Ishbias, or maybe it's close enough now where
Fronted some cash.
what if we
They're just
Venmo
writing
you guys
checks.
a few $1,000,000 just as an advance?
Put some money in escrow, basically, is what they did. They put some of them here, please. All right, go get a Harrison Bader. Go get it.
Maybe this is a hot take here, but two things. One, even if they don't make another move, I don't hate this Twins team, and I agree with some of the projections that if you just look at everyone on the position player side, the bullpen has a lot of really interesting arms. They finally added another lefty. The top of the rotation, the emergence of Bailey Ober last year, and if the guys who have a hard time staying healthy are healthy for 130 plus games, it's a no-brainer then that this team would be favored to win 86, 90, 92 games. But I feel like I'm also, like, second part of this take, I find myself personally in the same place that I've been for many Twin seasons the last handful of years, which is I'm trying to separate the way I feel about the organization and the ownership and the tone deafness of it all with the actual team and product on the field and the players that are going to be out there making up the lineup. But that's going to be over soon, because there's going to be a new honeymoon period with this new ownership group, and maybe they wind up also, maybe it's some of the same frustrations of the way that the baseball business model just kind of hinders small and mid-market teams. Maybe that becomes a thing with the new ownership group too. But that's where I'm at. Like, on one hand, I don't hate this team. This team should be competitive, and there's some really interesting young players. And also, I'm still kind of keeping the organization at an arm's length until they actually get out there and we see a new ownership group and we see what they can do for the first couple months of the season.
I feel there's a lot to unpack there, because I feel like you're getting into something that there is way more below the surface of the conversation. Because my issue, because they do have talent, my issue is, and the Bader signing I actually like because of this. Far too often, I think in the Falvey regime, this team has lacked common sense. For instance, last year, well, Buxton's going to play center. We don't need Michael A. Taylor or any other serviceable backup center fielder. And you're sitting here, I've been sitting here pounding the drum for 4 years now about you always need to have somebody like a Bader who can step in and play. Doesn't mean he's as good at the plate as Buxton, but, you know, we've talked about this 1,000 times. How much better is your pitching staff now with Bader and Buxton potentially out there? The first base thing still bugs me, because the first base thing I think we're sleeping on a bit, and if they don't do something there, it's sort of like, we'll get by. The "we'll get by" thing drives me crazy. That being said, the young talent is fine, but my bigger problem, like beyond the poll ads, because it's so easy to just dump on them, and heck, they deserve it a lot of times, but my bigger problem has been, what is Falvey doing, not just to build the organization for the future especially, but what's he doing right now that is common sense? Because I feel like sometimes he is the smartest guy in the room, and we all know that the smartest guy in the room is rarely the smartest guy in the room. And so that's where I look at the Bader signing decks yesterday and say, you know what? Okay, you just backfilled a place, because you cannot, when it comes to Buxton, you cannot say, okay, he's going to play 130. He's never done it before. If he plays 100, you're fortunate. So I like this move, but I still am concerned. I really would like to see a first baseman who can play first base, at least on the roster, to give you that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Mountcastle is another one that could be someone they target. He has connections, obviously, to the new hitting coach, Matt Borgschulte. You know, the Orioles have a surplus of talent, and Mountcastle was a first-round pick and one of their, highly regarded prospects that's come up. His power numbers have kind of dwindled after he got off to a hot start, but he's a serviceable, above-average defensive first baseman. Another one internally that I teased earlier, this guy didn't spend a ton of time in the outfield last year because he battled a lot of turf toe issues. And in my opinion, when you look at him, I think he actually profiles a better first baseman. I wasn't able to run this idea by anyone. Is Trevor Larnach someone that they could actually maybe move to first?
Yeah.
So he's 6'4", 223 pounds. He is a natural righty, so he bats left, but he does throw right. I look at that size and I look at that dude, and I actually wonder if there's a first base plan there. I understand that he's played outfield his entire life, but I don't think Julian and Miranda profile as long-term solutions as viable first basemen, and they've thrown a lot of guys at that position in the past that probably should have no business playing that position. And I look at Larnach and I look at where now Bader falls in, and also like prospects like Emmanuel Rodriguez and Walker Jenkins that they do get here. I wonder if there's a tinkering, and man, that's why I love spring training, because it's also like, who's going to grab the first base job? Who's going to grab the left field job?
Who's taking fly balls at different positions? And yeah,
I wonder if Trevor Larnach profiles maybe getting some time at first base in Fort Myers this year.
Well, and the I guess the other tentacle to that is because he still has at least 3 years of team control.
Yeah,
his clock is not close yet, and he's a former first-round pick, and maybe he hasn't quite lived up to it. But because most of the Twins' top position players are outfielders too, so as you look at this thing, Buxton's still under contract, and it seems like Buxton is, ancient, but God, he's like 30 years old, or I guess he's 31, and next offseason he'll turn 32. But he is your starting center fielder under contract for at least the next couple years. And Matt Wallner was low-key one of the most maybe underrated hitters in baseball last year after he got, kind of through those early season struggles. So once Rodriguez comes up, and eventually once Walker Jenkins comes up, there's not really a place for Trevor Larnach in the outfield, and there's some better athletes in there too that you just want like roaming the pastures more than you'd want Larnach. So I don't hate that idea. Is your first base plan right now, barring an external signing, is move someone who's not either familiar with that position anyways, or in the case of Miranda, he's played some first base, but like isn't exactly Doug Minkiewicz in his prime from 20 years ago. So, you might as well throw a Trevor Larnach in the mix if you're just working with internal options. I don't hate that.
I like the size too. That profiles. Now again, it would be a work in progress. Like that's the thing is, whoever plays there is going to have to spend a ton of time there, obviously in spring training, and hopefully spent some time there during the winter as well. But yeah, if you're looking for long-term solutions or solutions that can kick in and potentially work, I like that. For the immediate future, I still would like an acquisition because, to the point, this team is not terrible. Like, it's not like, well, the first baseman dropped the ball, but that's okay. It's the 2004 White Sox. It's the 62 Mets. So I would like some more stability. But yes, as far as your options go, Dex, that's a good one, because you got to think that among all of the outfielders who are either young and here or coming up, that they're either going to be moved to a position or be trade chips, right?
Yeah.
So if you like a guy and say, well, he's not great in the outfield, but he's too young to potentially DH ideally, it makes some sense.
And Rocco talked about this in Inside Twins. This was probably now 3 weeks ago. But when he was asked about the future of the first base position going into this year, he said, that will be a position as the rest of the offseason unfolds, we talk about more, and we have to think about when we're in spring training. And I want those at-bats to go to someone who has a real chance to play there during the season at the big league level. That's one spot on the field we'll definitely be thinking about. So, like, reading some between the lines there a little bit, it is clear as day. He wants a viable option there, and it doesn't sound like he even wants to like mess with a platoon option there regularly either. So, they had Carlos Santana, who won a Gold Glove and was great, and now he's gone back to Cleveland. They've had C.J. Cron there, who Rocco pushed for going into 2019. That was also a very good defensive first baseman. But then they've also, thrown in the Arises, the Donnie Barrels. They've thrown in some random dudes there. Jose Miranda has obviously spent time there, who will get looks there this year. I just look at that position, and if they're going to add one more thing to this roster, which on paper and if stays healthy is probably still an 89, 90 win team, if there's one thing they have to add, it's a viable first baseman.
you can see the push and pull to throughout the past few years at certain positions between Baldelli and like Falvey, right? Like the center field thing. There is no way on God's green earth that Rocco was pleased with saying, all right, you know what? Austin Martin. Like, he loves Castro, but I guarantee you his first choice was not for Castro's versatility to cause him to start in center as much as he did. Like, I think the Bader thing is probably largely a Rocco thing, and I think it's very smart. Because that's the one thing is, especially a team like this, you cannot sacrifice defense. Like, that's the thing is they far too often think, oh, we'll make this work. Okay, that's a fine thought. But when it doesn't work, what do? You drag down your pitching, which you 100% cannot afford to do.
Yeah, every year you look at Cleveland and you're like, God, like how you look at the 26-man roster and, Dex went viral on Guardians Twitter for trolling the jet stream, like the wind tunnel going out to the outfield. But in reality, it's not the wind tunnel that puts Cleveland into the 90s, a 92 win team when you're just half the team. You're like, who is this guy? Why is this guy hitting? Why does he have like a 390 on base percentage? So Cleveland last year, for example, defensively alone, according to Fangraphs, I'll use defensive runs saved. It's kind of a plus minus essentially. Cleveland defensively was a plus 89 defensive runs saved above average. The Twins, albeit one of the best defensive first base teams in the league because Carlos Santana is a wizard with the glove. The Twins were 25th in base. By the way, the Cleveland, that was second behind the Blue Jays in defensive runs saved, 89. The Twins were a minus 20. So 89 plus minus 20, that's 109 runs saved defensively gap between the Guardians, and that's almost a run per game if you think about it defensively. And so sometimes it is easy, when you're just kind of watching baseball, and you're like, oh, the Twins need a little more offense from this guy, or they need a better pitcher over here. And the thing that's hardest to quantify is that little looper in shallow left field that the Guardians third baseman went out and made an over-the-shoulder catch. Like, well, that could have led to a 3-run inning if he doesn't catch that ball.
Absolutely.
Or, and the Twins have this with Buxton throughout the prime of his career where he's tracking down fly balls that would have been doubles or triples, and he makes them look like cans of corn. But that is literally like the Guardians plopping in a 109 RBI, like an extra 100. They get a 10th hitter who drives in 109 runs, if you want to classify it that way. Also worth noting, Detroit. What the hell? How did Detroit? And they made a run late. But, man, that team won 86 games. I know they got a couple good pitchers and some, Detroit was 5th in baseball last year, plus 50 defensive runs saved, 79 runs better than the Twins defensively. There you go. Harrison Bader helps with some of this, by the way.
Absolutely. Think about the experience of going to a game, July, Target Field, gorgeous day, night game, evening game, and you're sitting there.
Baseball.
And Manuel Margot's in left, and there's a fly ball, and he's looking all around. He's looking all around. He is lost as can be, and the ball drops. The two things where I think the 2024 Twins, beyond just the meltdown, like the things that I think were symptoms were the defensive play for sure, and I don't have the metrics in front of me, but the base running I think as well. And like those are things we probably don't think about enough because they're not sexy. But you think about, first to third, right? Not getting thrown out, things like that. I just felt that there were some real fundamental gaps there that caused problems, and those two to me stood out.
This is where the sports dad, when he's got those binoculars, those field glasses, he doesn't need Fangraphs. He just needs
scorecard out too as well.
He just needs his handwritten scorecard and those two grizzled sports viewing eyes. The Twins were also 26th according to Fangraphs, 26th in base running, and the way they quantify this essentially is running runs above average, including stolen bases. So bases taken, some of this might be like subjective, but or maybe it's not. If you're at first base and there's a ball hit to right field, how many times above average did you go from first to third? How many times above average did you score from second on a single to the outfield, right? And all this compounds over the season. And again, Detroit was top 10 in baseball in base running. Kansas City was top 10 in base running. The Twins were 26th. The Twins were 11 runs below average on the bases compared to. So the gap between the Twins and the Royals was 20 runs. Or it may not seem like much, but like once a week or twice a week, call it once a week or whatever, the Royals are getting an extra run just because they're better at base running. And some of it is, do you have better athletes? Do you have a third base coach that has a sense of when to send somebody one notch, right?
But now that you did.
So, yeah, these are the things that it's like the between the cracks things in baseball that are kind of hard to put your finger on it in the moment. But, there's a base hit. Oh, the guy got slowed up because he took a stutter step. But, hey, there's still runners on the corners. Yeah, but that guy should have scored from second on that play.
And it sounds like, obviously, with them keeping the core of their roster intact and why they haven't made like big splashes in free agency, this is where they're changing up their hitting coach and they're changing up some of the situational things they do in preparing. Like, I know those things are boring and those things aren't the fun things to talk about, but they're having a completely different approach with how they go about cage work this year and how they go about BP this year. And those little things that I know aren't the exciting things where they're not spending big money on free agents, they clearly feel their roster is still good enough, and they weren't either preparing in a way that they loved, or they can make tweaks to make their team better in 2025, so they could be a much more closer to even defensive team, so they could take the extra bag on the fly ball to right field, etc. So those parts I'm super curious to see how it unfolds. By the way, a shout out to our friends at Kieran's. Kieran's Irish Pub in downtown Minneapolis. Great spot to stop in before opening day. Twins open against the Astros. We saw the promotion schedule that came out for Target Field. Fun fact, I think someone on Twins Twitter accidentally tried to leak that on Tuesday, and they quickly deleted the post and then forced it out the other day. They were a little early on that promotion.
Someone's going to get fired. I don't know.
Not good, but you can go see all those promotions, but also stop in at Kieran's. Enjoy a pregame or a postgame pint with our friends at Kieran's Irish Pub.
Also, so baseball season signals warmer weather on the way. Golf season the same way, but what we're doing here at the Minnesota Golf Show, the North American Banking Company Minnesota Golf Show, we're giving you that midwinter golfing respite inside the Minneapolis Convention Center, February 21st through the 23rd. Compliments of TwinCitiesGolf.com. Each ticket purchased includes 10 free greens fee passes if you purchase online, a value of $350 in essentially free greens fees. More information and tickets at mngolfshow.com. This is the best place in the middle of winter here when it's like 0 degrees wind chill today, where you can test out the latest clubs. You get great deals on apparel, free 10-minute lessons from local PGA professionals. mngolfshow.com to get your tickets.
Baseball.
You guys want to do a random twin of the week?
Yes. Random twin of the week. I got the standings here. So Dex is going to throw out the clues. He was the Lehuser last week. Lehuser. Scott Stahoviak was last week's random twin.
Which you got incredibly quickly.
Yeah, very good. I would have never gotten that, by the way.
That was good. Yeah, Dex is like, whatever.
That's fine.
Denny Hocking. Check. Nah, black. Gio Urshela, a lucky fella, and Kyle Farmer, the last handful of random twins. All-time stats, I have 26 wins. Dex has 24. Judd has 19. Dex will throw out some clues. Judd and I each get up to 3 incorrect guesses. If one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. That's part of the strategy. No Googling. You can Control F search to see if we've done these random twins. Judd, you have an updated list. Do you need us to send
I'm going to need one soon. I've been trying to do it this time, but I might need one.
Just let us know.
Just to confirm. I've been surprised at there's a decent amount of really good selections left, which is nice.
Oh, I feel like it's endless.
Like the Vikings got very tough.
It's tough too because like in football, the skill position players and the flashy defensive players, there's more players to choose from. But in terms of like who you would even have a background on, the Chris Lewinsky's of the world, these random dudes. But baseball, I feel like
Wow.
there's 9 guys in the lineup all season every year, and then there's more banked in your memory. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take on it.
I like it. All right.
All right, this random twin of the week was a first-round pick. Not by the Twins. This random twin of the week won a silver medal at the Olympics.
Silver medal. Feels like you didn't play for the U.S. then. Feels like we always won gold there in baseball. It's our sport, you know.
Well, but if he's a draft pick, I don't know.
I mean, he could be. Well, there's at least one other country he could come from.
This random twin of the week was inducted into the UCLA Hall of Fame.
Jackie Robinson didn't play for the Twins.
No, he did not.
Did go to UCLA, ran track.
I don't know if he went. Did he go to UCLA?
Yeah, ran
He did?
track.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's right, he did.
Fantastic athlete. But it's not non-starter. UCLA.
This random twin of the week. By far, his best numbers came with the Twins. Spent 9 years in Major League Baseball. For example, he had a career WAR of 21.7. 19.7 of that came with the Twins.
Okay.
All right, hold on. I am control effing right now. If you see me scrolling,
You see me scrolling.
I always love that one. I'm gonna take a guess. I don't know that this is the correct school though. Shane Mack.
Wow. Ding, ding, ding.
Whoa, dude.
What a pull. Shane
What?
Mack. It is Shane Mack. I didn't even get to I was
20.
working around the
Wow,
bigger
dude.
clues.
Finally.
Wow.
Holy
Well,
cow. Was he a Red Sox? Who drafted him? The Red Sox?
Padres.
And
Rule
then-
Rule 5 pick. I believe on, if I am correct on this bit of trivia, I believe on the same day the Padres, or a year apart, the Padres lost Shane Mack and Dave Hollins in the Rule 5 drafts.
Wow.
Wow.
The Phillies took Hollins and the Twins took Mack.
Yeah, I mean, one of my clues was World Series winner. He was at Kirby Puckett's bedside when he was in his final hours. But one of my clues I wanted to say was, I wish I would have gotten to see this random twin of the week, because he was
Yeah.
here
He
was
from
very
90
good here.
through 94.
He was one of my favorite players as a kid.
Yeah,
Because
he
his
was
last name was
awesome.
Mac, I guess.
A career slash, a 309, 375, 479, and an 854 OPS with the Twins. Like, he was a badass, man.
He was one of the
loved to
most
see Shane.
underrated Twins of all time, for sure.
I believe he also was the first player when Puckett's transition to right field started. I believe he was the first. He moved to center field.
Yep, like 93-ish.
Yeah,
I wanna say.
Puckett. I looked this up last night. Puckett moved for like 43 games in '93, and then full time to right in '94. I was seeing when certain guys in their careers began to get some more rest for their legs by making the move from center to right. For a Substack piece on Harrison Bader potentially playing center and Buck playing a little bit of right.
Yeah. Well, Buck is going to be. It'll happen at some point if he plays long enough.
I was just saying that you might ease the transition this year.
He'd be a monster in the corner because he's if he played right field, he'd cover more ground than any right fielder in the game. So it was like when Denard Span went there too. By the way, do you guys know who so in '94, Shane Mack was the left fielder, Kirby Puckett was the right fielder. Can you tell me who the center fielder was?
Was it Rich Becker?
No, Rich Becker. Well, Rich Becker played a little bit, but it was more like 95, 96 for Rich Becker.
94, Otis Nixon around that time?
No, Nixon would have been
Alex
like 96.
Cole around
Alex
that time?
Cole was the starting
Okay.
center fielder.
Good, sweet.
29 stolen bases.
Oh, my God.
He was good, solid season for him.
And as Judd said it in that Substack piece, which I read this morning, before you start a Reddit thread declaring the author of this column to be the biggest idiot around, Let him hear him out. Hear him
Yep.
out. That's
Hear
all
me
Judd
out.
wants to say. Hear him out.
Hear me out.
Hear him
Hear
out.
me
Those
out.
are his
'Cause
words, not mine.
Because I know those threads. They're out there. They're out there.
Amazing. Yeah, I wish I would have seen Shane Mack. That would have been a great player to see in his prime. That's your random twin. Congrats to Judd. His first victory in quite some time, right?
Nice job. Since Jacques Jones
Yep.
Good.
back probably almost 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Was it really 2 months ago?
Yeah, the last time you had back-to-back victories was Lance Lynn and Rich Becker, so the pressure is going to be on you. I'll come up with a doozy for next week.
I'm sure you will.
Put the sports dad to the test.
I love it. Hey, hit the like button, subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show. If another breaking news happens here today for the third straight day, I'll jump on an extra innings episode. Appreciate everyone listening, watching, subscribing to the SKOR North Twins Show.